Bailey image based MCQ session 2. The highlights of this session, I am going to discuss about Hippocratic facies, Spigelian hernia, pelvic abscess, gastrinoma triangle, and apart from that Calais triangle, triangle of Tomb, triangle of Pain and Thames. Identify the Hippocratic facies. So here in this question you can able to see the 4 options are there. So answer for this question is this is the Hippocratic facies. Okay, this one is the Hippocratic facies. Hippocratic facies. So I am going to discuss about these facies. Okay, what is this Hippocratic facies? You all know that Hippocrates, okay, Hippocrates is the father of the medicine. He is a Greek physician and surgeon, and he is basically from the island called Kos. Okay, so this is about the Hippocrates. Then this facies is very characteristically you can describe as an anxious facies. Anxious facies. So you can see in this picture the patient is very anxious. And this is characteristically seen in cases of peritonitis and patient presenting with circulatory failure. You will be having a cold, clammy extremities, sunken eyes, dry tongue and thready pulse, and these facies you can see anxious facies, and this is described as Hippocratic facies. Okay, let's see the other facies. This one is Leonine facies. This is a lion-like face, characteristically seen in case of lepromatous leprosy. And this is myxedema facies, seen in hypothyroidism, which is nothing but puffy face and periorbital edema. And the last one, this is thyrotoxic facies, where the patient is presenting with the toxic goiter, exophthalmos, that is protrusion of the eye, and lid lag will be there, that is a retraction of the upper eyelid. So these are about the facies. Next question. Identify this condition. Identify this condition. Okay, so here in this picture, there are four hernia were given. That is femoral hernia, Spigelian hernia, lumbar hernia, inguinal hernia. Okay, you see in this picture, and this is the left lumbar region. This is umbilical region, suprapubic, and this one is the left iliac fossa region. Okay, so there are 4 hernias were given, and this is a location for the pubic tubercle, that is pubic tubercle. Okay, so first we will rule out the femoral hernia and inguinal hernia. Femoral hernia will be present below and lateral to the pubic tubercle and below the inguinal ligament. So this is the location for the femoral hernia. And whereas an inguinal hernia will be present above and medial to the pubic tubercle, above the inguinal ligament, and this is a location for inguinal hernia. These 2 hernias are ruled out, and remaining is the lumbar hernia. Lumbar hernia characteristically will have the presentation entirely in the lumbar region alone, and only option available is a Spigelian hernia. But Spigelian hernia, this is not the typical position of Spigelian hernia, but you can have the Spigelian hernia in this location also. Okay, so we will discuss about that one. Okay, what is this Spigelian hernia? Okay, Spigelian hernia, basically you should know the Spigelian fascia. What is Spigelian fascia? Which is nothing but a fascia that extends from the above from costal margin to the groin, and from laterally from the oblique muscle where it is inserting into the lateral border of rectus muscle. So this fascia is called a Spigelian fascia, and the line, the lateral border of the line is called a semilunar line or Spigelian line. Okay, so any defect in this fascia or in the line, you will get an herniation that is called Spigelian hernia. The commonest location of the herniation is below the umbilicus and lateral to the, so I will put the picture. So this is the location. This is the location below the umbilicus and lateral to the rectus, muscle. So that is the commonest location for spigelian hernia, but you can get the hernia anywhere in this location also. Okay, that is a spigelian belt. Okay, so commonly there is some misconception that you will get a spigelian hernia exactly at the level of the arcuate line. So what is this arcuate line? So this is the arcuate line. Arcuate line is nothing but it's an inferior margin of the posterior rectus sheath. So that is a arcuate line. This is a misconception. So you don't get a herniation commonly. You will get an herniation below the umbilicus and lateral to the rectus sheath. So there is, this is one of the misconception. I'll go to the next question. Identify the procedure. Identify the procedure. Okay, here are 4 options are there. Again, number 1, urethral dilatation, where urethral dilatation is a procedure for the stricture urethra, where you will introduce your instrument dilator into the urethra. Here there is no picture like that. Okay, urethral dilatation ruled out. And cystoscopy. Cystoscopy, which is nothing but visualization of the urinary bladder. Again, you have to put the cystoscope through the urethra only. There also nothing is there. Then third one is a sigmoidoscopy, which is nothing but visualization of the sigmoid colon through the anal canal and rectum and then into the sigmoid colon. You have to enter and see. That is called sigmoidoscopy. So these 3 options are ruled out. The remaining one is the pelvic abscess drainage. Okay, what you are seeing, this is the pelvic abscess. So the pelvic abscess is drained via rectally. Okay, so that is the procedure given here. Okay, we will discuss some points about the pelvic abscess. What is this pelvic abscess? Pelvic abscess is the commonest abscess, most commonly you will get, and because of the presence of the appendix. Okay, appendix, that is if suppose you have appendix in pelvic position, you will get, and fallopian tube. So that is one of the commonest cause for the infection in the pelvis. And post diffuse, any surgery, any patient underwent diffuse peritonitis, laparotomy, post laparotomy, you can get a pelvic abscess. So what are the symptoms? Rectal pain, diarrhea, mucus in the stools. Okay, in the woman, you will do the drainage of the abscess through the vagina. Through the vagina, you can drain through the posterior fornix. In other cases, you can drain via the rectum. That is a rectal drainage. Okay, which one is gastrinoma triangle? Which one is gastrinoma triangle? 4 triangles are given. We will discuss one by one. Okay, the blue is the gastrinoma triangle. What is this gastrinoma triangle? Gastrinoma triangle is a triangle, is otherwise called as Pessaro's triangle. Pessaro's triangle. Okay, so how will you, what are the boundaries of the triangle? Okay, first we will take 3 points. The first point is the junction between the head and neck of the pancreas. Second point is junction between the second part of the duodenum and third part of duodenum. And third one is confluence of the cystic duct and bile duct. You connect all these 3 points, you will get a triangle. This triangle is called gastrinoma triangle or Pessaro's triangle. Why it's called gastrinoma triangle? Since 90% of the gastrinoma tumor will get in this triangle, that's why it's called gastrinoma triangle. Okay, what is gastrinoma? Gastrinoma is nothing but it is a non-beta cell tumor of the pancreas. Okay, so this is about the gastrinoma triangle. So next triangle, Callett's triangle. What is Callett's triangle? Callett's triangle is mainly useful for doing a laparoscopic surgery. Okay, the original Callett's triangle, the boundaries are cystic duct, common hepatic duct, and then cystic artery. So this is the original triangle, and the content will be lymph node, will be the content. But now this triangle is somewhat modified because of the recent advances, that is laparoscopic cholecystectomy. Now the triangle boundaries are, okay, cystic duct and then common hepatic duct and then inferior border of the liver, and the content is cystic artery. So one should be very careful while doing laparoscopic cholecystectomy. So this Callett's triangle has to be defined completely to avoid the injury to the bile duct. So this is very important in laparoscopic cholecystectomy. So next triangle. So this triangle is also very important. That is two triangles are there. One is called triangle of doom. Another one is triangle of pain. So both of them you will get in case of laparoscopic anatomy of the inguinal hernia while doing laparoscopic surgery for inguinal hernia. Number one, it's called a triangle of doom. Okay, I will tell the boundaries. So this is the deep inguinal ring and medial border by the vas deferens, laterally by the gonadal vessels, below by the reflected portion of the peritoneum. Just adjacent to that you got this triangle, another triangle, that is called triangle of pain. Again you see the medial boundary is by the gonadal vessel, laterally by the reflected portion of peritoneum, above by the iliopubic tract. What are the contents of this triangle? In triangle of doom, the content is external iliac, artery and vein. Whereas the triangle of pain, the content are four nerves are there. One is femoral nerve, number one. Number two is the femoral branch of, you see that femoral branch of genitofemoral nerve. Then anterior cutaneous nerve of thigh and lateral cutaneous nerve of thigh. Four nerves are there. Okay, why it is called triangle of doom and why it is called triangle of pain? The reason is very simple. While doing laparoscopic anatomy, you have to define this triangle, and after that you have to go and keep a mesh. Okay, the mesh entirely covering this region. You have to keep a mesh like this, and this mesh has to be fixed with a special device called tacker. So this tacker, which is nothing but a metallic coils. Okay, these metallic coils you have to fix it in this location. So this metallic coil can cause an injury. Suppose if you fire the metallic tacker into the triangle of doom, what will happen? There will be injury to the external iliac vessels. Obviously there will be a torrential bleeding. Sometimes you may lose the patient also. Okay, so that's why it's called triangle of doom. So you should not fire any tacker in the triangle of doom. And similarly, triangle of pain. If you fire any in this triangle, tacker in this triangle, what will happen? Again, the post-operatively the patient will be having a chronic neuralgic pain. So for this reason, you should not fire any tacker in this triangle. Okay, so this is about the laparoscopic anatomy of the inguinal hernia. Next, this is 40-year-old male patient diagnosed to have carcinoma of the rectum early stage. He underwent some procedure using this device. What is the device? This is four options are there: TATME, SEPS, TEMS and WAFT. The procedure choice is TEMS. Okay, we will discuss one by one. What is TEMS? TEMS is a transanal endoscopic microsurgery where this is one of the organ preserving surgery commonly useful. The indication for this surgery is early carcinoma of the rectum, that is T1 and T2 lesion, where you will take the full thickness excision of the lesion, that is called TEMS. What is TATME? Which is nothing but transanal total mesorectal excision, which is a combined approach of abdominal and transanal endoscopic approach for the total mesorectal excision. So combinedly you are taking the mesorectum. And what is this WAFT? WAFT is a video assisted anal fistula treatment. It is a minimally invasive procedure, sphincter saving surgery, ideally useful for the complex anal fistula. And last one is the SEPS, subfacial endoscopic perforator surgery. This is very commonly useful in cases of varicose veins.